I get asked a lot why I like Brilliant Fusion so much, and the answer isn't as simple as you probably think. There's a lot of different factors that happened over various months that made me fall in love with Brilliant Fusion and continue to play it in a ton of different decks over the past couple of years. So, the first time I picked up Brilliant Fusion was actually for literal Gem Knights. I played Gem Knights a while ago when Lavalval Chain was still legal. I thought Gem Knight Fusion was one of like the coolest cards ever. I really like Lazuli and Obsidian as well. I thought that they're kind of cool card design. Not as powerful as Shadal's, obviously, but it's kind of the same thing. And I really like all the fusion monsters as well. So back when Brilliant Fusion first came out, I also bought Absorb Fusion and then all the Gem Knight Fusion monsters and built a Gem Knight deck. From there was my first interaction with someone doing something crazy with Brilliant Fusion was using Brilliant Fusion to send Wing Karibo to the graveyard and then activating this spell card, Sabitil, the Philosopher's Stone. I'm going to pronounce it wrong. Doesn't fucking matter. The Philosopher's Stone, which you can pay half your life points when you have a Wing Karibo in your grave to search a fusion card. And I thought that was like really neat. You could use Mathematician to send Wing Karibo, you could use Brilliant Fusion to send Wing Karibo, and then you could use the Philosopher's Stone to search a fusion card. It's one of the only ways to search Brilliant Fusion that's not super shitty, or at least it was back then. Obviously now we have Predaplants, but at the time it was like the only non-garbage way to search Brilliant Fusion, and I thought that was really cool, and that was just like the very beginning of all the crazy ways I would use Brilliant Fusion. Shortly after, I went to YCS Toronto as a feature match writer. I don't know if you guys know this, but there was about a 2-year period where I did a bunch of feature match articles. They don't really do those very often anymore, so I'm not really needed in that department, but it was a lot of fun. Anyway, though, we went to YCS Toronto. A group and I went to YCS Toronto, and day 2, I believe, there was a well, first of all, day 2, there was someone that talked to my friend Pasquale, who you may know is the guy that top 32'd the 2014 WCQ with Frogs, back before Frogs were like relevant ever. But anyway, so he found this guy that was playing Ritual Beasts, and he loves Ritual Beasts, another thing you may or may not know. But he loves Ritual Beasts, and the guy was playing Brilliant Fusion in it to get a second normal summon by sending Trick Clown, and also to send Ritual Beast Canahawk or Spiritual Beast Canahawk to the grave to summon Gem Knight, whatever the fuck. Why I can't remember the guy's name. The Gem Knight Prismara or whatever. That's his name. So he thought that was really cool, and then at that same event, Patrick Hoban was telling Jason Mayer and I, Jason Mayer is the other feature match writer, that he played a really cool Shadal deck using Brilliant Fusion as like an engine to get like a light monster in the grave and like summon earth monsters and stuff. And I actually ended up asking my girlfriend to get that deck profile, even though he didn't top or anything. I just thought it was really interesting. And this kind of brings up one of the confusions that a lot of people have with Brilliant Fusion to me. A lot of people think that I started playing Brilliant Fusion because Patrick Hoban played Brilliant Fusion, and it's actually the other way around. So I sought him out because he was playing Brilliant Fusion, and by that time I was already aware of some of the expansive ways that you could play the card, so I was just really excited that someone else was doing it. So now you have a couple different factors here. You have the factor of me discovering you can use Wing Karibo to search or to grab Philosopher's Stone, and that's pretty stupid. And then you have like the Ritual Beast scenario, and then you have Patrick Hoban, a well-known player, playing it in Shadal's, a deck that you wouldn't maybe think of that card in. After that, I began testing with Madolches because I realized if you open Magdalene and Brilliant Fusion, that was like just crazy combos. I mean, obviously, like it's an OTK, but first turn I can set up a whole bunch of board monsters. It also unlocked the potential of Choco a la Mode, which is now like one of my favorite Dolce Exceed monsters, even though at the time that card came out, I thought it was terrible. But when I realized that Brilliant Fusion could do that, I became very excited. And I ended up taking that deck, Madolches, to a regional in Indianapolis, and I actually got a top 8 finish there, even though I could have done like probably way better, been like first or second place if I would have not thrown the last round like an idiot. But regardless, I didn't play very well that tournament, but I had a lot of fun, and I quickly realized that Brilliant Fusion was like one of the craziest cards I had ever gotten my hands on. And from there, I went to another regional with Chronomalies, and at that event, I played. Now, don't laugh, but I played 2 Brilliant Fusion, 1 Garnet, because I was like, because at the Indianapolis one, I played 2 Garnet, 3 Brilliant Fusion. Because, I mean, you have to realize that no one was playing this card at this time, so I didn't know ratios. But to me, it made sense to play 3 and 2, and then naturally, I was like, man, I drew Garnet a lot last tournament, so I'll cut it to 2 and 1, which was a terrible idea. And you can watch the deck profile, that Chronomy deck profile, and like I literally say, wow, that was like a terrible idea, worst decision ever. So I took it to those events, and then it just kind of exploded from there. But from a deck building standpoint, one of the reasons that I love Brilliant Fusion so much, and one of the reasons that I continue to play it in so many decks, I know you guys hate that I keep uploading decks with Brilliant Fusion, and I really try to stagger them. I don't just upload like all Brilliant Fusion decks and combos for like a whole month. But one of the reasons that I keep finding myself wanting to play it in decks is because Brilliant Fusion, and I guess by extension Gemknight, Seraphonite, unlock the potential of so many decks that I never thought would have been playable. When I first was playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And even through like late high school, early college, I played a lot of normal summon reliant decks, and I don't know why. I mean, I just have, at that time I didn't really realize like how it was important to have a lot of cards that can special summon, so you can actually play every card in your hand. I found myself with Madolches, like we're talking OG Madolches, second set that they came out, so they didn't have like any good cards pretty much. They didn't have Hoot Cake, didn't have Angeli, stuff like that. I found myself playing double summon because I was like, wow, this deck really needs a second normal summon. So I played a lot of decks like that opened hands where you drew a lot of cards that had to be normal summoned, and once you got going, it was like really hard to beat, or at least I thought they were really hard to beat. You know, I felt like there was a lot of momentum there. But the getting going part was tough, and double summon's obviously -1, so it's kind of not very good. So I had to put a lot of those decks aside, and I mean, like the pinnacle of these decks was probably Spirits, because I love that deck so much, and Nikki Tama gave you an extra normal summon. But I mean, that deck in the long run, if I look at some of my older builds, there were like 18 normal summons in that deck, and it's like, how did that ever? Like, how did I almost top a YCS with that deck? How did I get a regional top, like the worst build ever? And eventually I went to like Hage Kage for that deck to sort of accelerate its plays. But man, I wish I would have had Brilliant Fusion back then, because what I realized when Brilliant Fusion came out and when I started playing with it more and more outside of just Gemknight decks was that Gemknight Seraphonite was actually just the nuts. Getting that extra normal summon and sending a light is one of the most versatile 2-hit punches that I can ever imagine. I mean, if I just think about like all the shit that I've played Brilliant Fusion in, or that all the stuff other people have played Brilliant Fusion in, it's actually just astounding how much that one card can do. I mean, there's one card FTKs with it. You can send Lazuli and any normal monster that can be used to add back fucking Galaxy Serpent to make a level 7 Synchro monster, or you can like add Jax Knight back and like summon Jax Knight with Return of the Monarchs face up and then search a Monarch. And it's like all these random combos that you never think would be possible were just suddenly possible, and that's why I love it so much. I think I find myself playing it in so many different decks because it does different things for every deck out there. It's not just a card that summons Seraphonite and sends Trick Clown. It can also send digital bugs to revive. It can also send pretty much anything, and it's even more expansive than I've probably shown on the channel. I mean, I've messed around with decks that send Volcanic Shell to the graveyard to summon the Pyro Gemknight, and that's kind of like neat because you can shuffle back Garnet with Royal Firestorm Guards. It's like there was a Volcanic Brilliant Fusion deck that I came up with, and it's like, I don't think the card will ever be bad. It's always going to be a brick in terms of you have to draw the Garnet sometimes, and drawing multiples really sucks. But in terms of cards that I've played in the past 2 years, there's no other card in the entire game that I feel so good activating. And I don't know if you guys experience the same thing. I know some of you don't like Brilliant Fusion. I don't know how you found this channel, because this is a Brilliant Fusion channel. But I don't know. No other card can match it. Not activating Zodiac Barrage, not activating Pot of Desires, not Allure of Darkness, not Soul Charge, not Instant Fusion. It's just every time that I can resolve a Brilliant Fusion, I just feel like I can win that game. And no other card has really done that for me ever. And I don't know. There's my ranting. It's not rant. There's my homage to Brilliant Fusion. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you later. Bye.